A pen light. That's it. That's the test that puts more people in handcuffs than almost any other single moment in a DUI stop. And it looks like nothing. The officer holds it up near your face. Just follow this with your eyes. Don't move your head. It sounds like an eye exam. It sounds harmless. Compared to walking a straight line or balancing on one leg in front of a stranger with a flashlight, this one feels easy. Almost everyone says yes. Here's the twist almost no attorney will actually explain to you. This specific test, called horizontal gaze nystagmus, is the most scientifically disputed test police use on the roadside. Judges have thrown out results. Some states won't even let juries hear the raw number without an expert in the room to explain it. And most drivers have no idea they were allowed to say no. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what this test is measuring, what can throw off the result that has nothing to do with alcohol at all, and the exact 4 words that let you decline it without an argument. Subscribe before I get into it, because this is the test nobody explains, and it's the one you're most likely to face next. Let's get into it. What's actually happening when your eyes are being watched? Nystagmus is a real, physical thing. Everyone's eyes do it. Push your eyes far enough to one side, and they start to jerk instead of moving smoothly. That's nystagmus, and it happens in every human being on Earth at extreme angles. Alcohol makes that jerking happen sooner and more noticeably. That's the entire theory behind the test. So the officer holds up a pen, or a finger, or a small light, and moves it slowly to one side, then the other, watching for 3 specific things. Does your eye track smoothly or jerk? Does it jerk distinctly when held at the furthest point to the side? And does that jerking start before your eyes have even moved 45 degrees off center? 3 checks, 2 eyes, 6 data points, all from a pen light. Stop and let that sink in for a second. 6 separate findings, each one potentially written into a report as consistent with impairment, generated in under a minute, from a test where you have zero ability to tell in the moment how you're doing. This is one of 3 tests that make up what's called the standardized field sobriety battery, the other 2 being the walk and turn and the one-leg stand. But HGN is different from those 2 in a way that changes everything about how seriously you should take this moment. Here's why. Why this test gets torn apart in court more than the others. Think about the other 2 tests for a second. A judge can watch someone try to walk a straight line and just see it. Did they stumble? Fall off the line? Common sense does the work. Nystagmus doesn't work like that. Nobody watching a body cam video can spot involuntary eye jerking with the naked eye in real time. It requires training, interpretation. Sometimes an actual expert has to get on the stand and explain what the number even means. And that difference has real consequences. A number of state courts have said HGN results can't just get waived in front of a jury as proof of a specific level of intoxication, not without meeting a baseline standard for scientific reliability first. In a lot of places, HGN ends up doing exactly one job, helping the officer justify probable cause to arrest you. That's it. It's often far less useful to a prosecutor later, at trial, than it was to the officer standing at your window. Which raises the obvious question. If it's this contested, why would you agree to take it? Here's the part that makes it even messier. Why officers love this test specifically. Ask yourself this. Out of all 3 standardized tests, which one can't you fail visibly? You can stumble on the walking test. Everyone watching, including you, sees it happen. You can wobble on the one-leg stand. Same thing. Obvious, visible, undeniable in the moment. HGN gives you nothing. No sensation. No feedback. You could be doing everything right from your own perspective and still walk away with 6 documented indicators of impairment because you can't feel your own eyes jerking. There's no internal signal telling you it's going badly. That's exactly why officers are trained to lean on it early. It's low effort to administer. A light, 30 seconds, done. It doesn't require you to have good balance, good coordination, or even be paying close attention to instructions. And because you get 0 real-time feedback, there's no moment where you'd think to stop and reconsider whether you should even be doing it in the first place. Compare that to the walk and turn, where most people can tell within a few steps whether it's going badly and start silently panicking about it. HGN skips that entirely. You finish it having no idea what just got written down about you. That imbalance. You get no information, the officer gets 6 data points, is worth sitting with for a second Because it's the whole reason this test deserves a different level of caution than the others. The thing that can make your eyes jerk that has nothing to do with alcohol. This is the section almost nobody tells you about, and it's the whole reason this test deserves more scrutiny than it gets. Nystagmus isn't exclusively an alcohol thing. Some people have a baseline, lifelong nystagmus from a neurological condition that has nothing to do with what they drank that night. Some of them don't even know they have it. Exhaustion affects eye tracking. Certain antihistamines do. Some anti-seizure medications do. High doses of caffeine can do it. Even certain inner ear conditions can do it. Bad lighting during the test itself can throw it off. So when an officer sees jerking and writes consistent with impairment in a report, that conclusion is only as good as everything that led up to it. Did they check that your pupils were even and tracking the same before starting? Did they hold the light at the right distance? Did they move it at the correct, trained speed, or too fast? Skip any one of those steps, and the whole result becomes something a defense attorney can pick apart later, piece by piece. You don't get to see any of that in the moment. You just get asked to follow the pen. Which brings us to the actual question this video exists to answer. Let's kill a few myths fast, because these are exactly what get people to say yes without thinking. Myth 1. It's just an eye test. It's not really evidence. Wrong. It gets written into the officer's report the same as everything else, and in states that allow it, it can be argued in court. Myth 2. If I pass, it helps me. Rarely. Officers who've already decided to investigate further tend to keep going regardless. A clean HGN result almost never ends a stop on its own, while a bad one adds fuel to it. Myth 3. I have to do it, that's the law. No. In nearly every state, it's voluntary, full stop. Myth 4. Declining makes me look guilty. It doesn't legally mean anything of the sort, and calmly declining a scientifically shaky test is a completely ordinary, informed decision, not an admission of anything. Is this test even required? No. In the vast majority of states, HGN is voluntary. Same as the other two field sobriety tests. It is completely separate from the mandatory chemical breath or blood test that comes later, after an arrest, under implied consent law. That's a different legal category entirely, with different consequences for refusing. Declining HGN, in most states, doesn't trigger any automatic license suspension the way refusing a post-arrest chemical test can. Officers almost never phrase it as optional. I'm just going to check your eyes real quick, sounds like a formality. It isn't one. So here's exactly what to say. The exact words. I don't wish to perform that test. That's the whole sentence. No explanation. No citing case law. No mentioning that you know it's scientifically contested. Just that, said once calmly. If the officer pushes, and some will, with something like, it's not a big deal, it's just an eye test, not like the walking one, you repeat it. Same words. Same tone. I understand. I'm still going to decline. You don't need a new argument every time. Repetition, calm and consistent, does more work here than explanation ever will. Here's how this actually plays out in real life. Officer says, follow my pen with your eyes, don't move your head. You say, I appreciate that, but I'm going to decline that test. Officer says, it's really quick, it'll only take a second. You say, I understand, I'm still declining. That's it. That's the entire exchange. No debate needed. And if the same officer then moves on to ask for the walk-in turn or the one-leg stand instead, same energy. I don't wish to perform any of the tests tonight. One clean, consistent position across the whole stop reads a lot better than agreeing to some tests and declining others with no clear pattern behind it. Let's run one more version, because officers don't all use the same script. Some go softer. Hey, I get it. It's just routine. Most people don't mind. You don't need to match that tone or explain your reasoning to seem less rigid. I appreciate that. I'm still going to decline. Some go firmer, almost implying it's required. I need you to follow the light for me. Even phrased as a need, it's still a request for a voluntary act in most states, and the same response holds. I understand you're asking, but I'm declining that test. Notice what's consistent across every version of this. You're not arguing the law with the officer. You're not citing anything. You're just repeating a short, calm, complete sentence regardless of how the request gets reworded. That's the entire skill, and it's genuinely simpler than it feels the first time you imagine saying it out loud. But what if you do take it? What if you've already agreed before watching this video, or you decide in the moment that declining feels like too much? Here's what to pay attention to. The courtroom fight nobody talks about. Here's something that might surprise you. HGN has been fought over in courtrooms for decades. Not the walk and turn, not the one-leg stand, specifically HGN. Defense attorneys have spent years attacking the same weak points, over and over. Was the officer actually trained properly? Was the test administered by the book? And does the underlying science even meet the bar required for scientific evidence in that particular state? Some states responded by tightening the rules around when HGN can even be mentioned to a jury. Others allow it more loosely but let defense attorneys hammer the administration details in cross-examination. Either way, the fact that this fight keeps happening, case after case, state after state, tells you something important. This isn't a settled, bulletproof test the way people assume it is. It's a contested one, and it has been for a long time. Think about what that actually means for you, standing at the window. Every other piece of evidence in a typical DUI stop, your driving, your speech, the smell in the car, gets weighed by ordinary human judgment. HGN gets weighed by a completely different standard, one built around whether the science itself holds up and whether the specific officer administering it that night actually did it correctly. That's an enormous amount of technical weight resting on 30 seconds with a pen light, and almost nobody standing there in the moment has any sense of how much is actually riding on it. Nobody explains that to you standing on the shoulder of a road at 11 at night with a pen light 6 inches from your face. That's exactly the gap this video is trying to close. If you do take it, notice the details. Did the officer check that your eyes were tracking evenly before starting? How far away was the light held, roughly? How fast was it actually moving? Was the lighting good or bad? You won't be scoring yourself in the moment the way you might with a balance test, and that's exactly the trap. There's no obvious sense of did I pass or fail the way there is with walking a line, which is part of why this test feels lower stakes than it actually is. Write down what you remember about how it was conducted as soon as you reasonably can afterward. Those details are frequently the exact thing a defense attorney uses to challenge the result later. What happens if you say no? Declining doesn't make an arrest impossible. If an officer already has other things supporting probable cause, the smell of alcohol, your driving before the stop, your speech, none of that disappears just because you skipped the pen light. What declining does is keep your own performance on a scientifically shaky test from becoming one more piece of evidence stacked against you. If you do end up arrested anyway, the same rule applies as always. Comply physically and say clearly, I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and I'd like to speak with an attorney. Everything about the formal, mandatory chemical test that comes after an arrest is its own separate legal track. A conversation for an actual attorney, not something to sort out roadside. Here's the part worth remembering even if the arrest happens anyway. A case built on subjective smell, general driving observations, and an officer's interpretation of your speech is one kind of case. A case that also includes 6 documented indicators from a test you didn't have to take, administered under conditions nobody was checking closely, is a very different kind of case. Declining doesn't erase the first version. It just keeps you from handing over the second one voluntarily. Why this one test deserves its own video. Out of all 3 standardized tests, this is the one people misjudge the most, and it's exactly because it doesn't feel like a test. There's no stumbling to notice. No balance to lose. Nothing that gives you a gut sense of how you're doing. That gap, between how low stakes it feels and how contested it actually is in court, is the entire reason so many people say yes to a pen light without a second thought, when the whole time, a calm forward sentence was sitting right there. One more thing worth knowing. Timing matters here in a way most people never think about. HGN readings can shift depending on when in the stop it's administered, fatigue late at night, stress from the stop itself, even repeated back and forth eye movement earlier in the interaction from checking mirrors or looking at the officer can all play into how your eyes are tracking by the time the pen light comes out. None of that is alcohol. All of it can still show up as indicators in a report. This isn't a reason to panic. It's a reason to understand that the test is measuring a moment shaped by a dozen small factors, not a clean, isolated read on your blood alcohol level the way people assume. Once you see it that way, declining stops feeling like defiance and starts feeling like exactly what it is, an informed, ordinary choice. The short version. HGN measures involuntary eye movement that alcohol can intensify, but so can fatigue, certain medications, some neurological conditions, and simple errors in how the test itself gets administered. Courts scrutinize it more than the other field sobriety tests because it takes training to interpret, not common sense. In most states, it's voluntary, exactly like the other two. And the response, if you're asked, is 4 words, "I don't wish to perform that test." Repeat it if you have to. Don't explain it. One more thing before you go. The reason this test works on so many people isn't that it's complicated. It's that it looks like nothing. A pen, a light, 30 seconds. That's exactly why it deserves more attention than people give it, not less. The tests that feel the most harmless are usually the ones worth understanding the best. If nobody's ever actually broken this test down for you like this before, that's exactly why I make these. Subscribe now, so you know this cold before you're the one staring at a pen light on the side of the road. Hit like so more people learn they're allowed to say no to this one too. And comment if you want the walk and turn and one leg stand tests broken down with this same level of detail next. This is general legal education, not legal advice for your specific situation. How courts treat HGN evidence and the exact rules around voluntary field sobriety testing vary by state and depend heavily on the specific facts of any given stop. If you're dealing with an actual DUI stop or charge, the right step is speaking with a licensed attorney in your state who can evaluate the specific facts of your case, not general guidance pulled from a video like this one. Know what the test is actually measuring. Know how little it actually takes to throw off the result: a bad night's sleep, an allergy pill, the wrong lighting. And know that, like most things on the side of the road, it's a decision, not an obligation, even when it's handed to you dressed up as a formality.